Hi Sandangle. Over the past few weeks, many of you have been reaching out with concerns about visa appointment rescheduling, travel uncertainty, and employment risk, especially for H-1B and H-4 related dependent visa holders. So, to help bring clarity and accurate legal perspective, today I am partnering with Manifest Law, a US immigration law firm that works extensively with employment based visas and real world travel scenarios. Quick note before we begin, if you have questions about your own visa situation, you can check out Manifest Law. They are offering a free consultation and you will find the link in the description below. So in this video, we will discuss what is actually happening with the visa slots, the risk people should consider before traveling, and options available if the plans are disrupted. So let's get into the video and welcome our attorney, Gabriela. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Gabriela Urizar, and I'm an immigration attorney at Manifest Law. I have almost a decade of experience practicing as an immigration attorney, especially advising the largest employers within the technology sectors and the financial sectors.
Okay, thank you so much. First question, earlier State Department pushed out few of the appointment slot, which was actually from December 15th, way back to March and some April. But do they really have any other options than waiting it out?
So I think it really depends on the employer, the type of visa that the employee has, and the relationship that the foreign national has with their employer. So in terms of what you just say, that a lot of the visas got rescheduled, this was likely due because the government came up with a new vetting system for people requesting visas under the H-1B and the H-4 categories. They are doing an increased vetting, especially in their social media, and the consulates, especially consulates like consulates in India that have a high demand for H-1B visa appointments, didn't have the capacity to continue with the same appointments with the increased level of vetting. So what they did is that they pushed out the majority of the visa appointments that were happening throughout the holiday break, like December and January, and schedule visas as far as July. So I've heard of people that have their visas scheduled in February, April, May, and even July, right? So, of course, it is understandable that people are very scared because they're stuck abroad. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand how they can come back to the US. What options do they really have? I think the first option is to keep in clear contact with their employer. There's some exceptions where the employer can work with, of course, their immigration attorney and also employment law. And there's also some tax implications. But there are situations where employers have been able to allow employees to work remote with the understanding, right, that you have to comply with tax law, immigration laws, and other employment laws. That is one option. The other option that people have, which is less limited, is try to monitor the availability of visa appointments, especially throughout the middle of the night. There are a lot of people that are going to be canceling their appointments that are still in the US. So all of those slots are going to open up. Try to snatch a slot, but don't cancel the one that was rescheduled for you, because if you lose that appointment, then it will be very hard for you to get back on it. Another option that these employees could have is perhaps requesting an emergency appointment. Again, these are very limited and they're usually given to people when they have a real emergency, right? Like they have to come back to the US because they have medical treatment going on, or because of the death of a family member, or to assist a funeral, and to make sure, especially if they're making a claim of an emergency based on medical care, to make sure that they have all the proper documentation from the um, from the doctors. But and then for the people who are thinking about scheduling summer vacations, speak to an attorney, speak to the immigration attorney. Right now, what we're seeing is people being rescheduled for the first half of the year. So we haven't really seen the appointments that were pushed out from December and January being pushed back towards the summer or the end of next year. So there still could be the possibility that people could schedule an appointment for visa stamping towards the end of the year. Just make sure that you take precautions, right? Like when you book your flight, perhaps paying for a refundable fee would make more sense than possibly risking losing the entire amount of the flight.
Okay, I mean, you gave out many information. I have few questions on that. One is like, when this happened very first time, in one of my videos I speculated that like they're moving it to March, but not they're not moving it to January or February. So I suspected, and many of them would also be that like could the January and February will also be rescheduled. But few days before we came to know that they are also like rescheduled January, some of the January appointments. So is it, I mean, do we know that are they going to keep doing this for until like January, February, March? Or do we have any timeline, or is it we cannot say at this point of time?
So I think a clarification that needs to happen is that this is not a blanket cancellation of all December and January appointments, right? But this is happening to a meaningful portion of them, which this means that people that still had their appointments scheduled for December and January, they still have their appointments. So
But
they're still planning to attend the appointment. So they're selectively rescheduling these appointments. That doesn't mean that there is something wrong with the profile of the person. It just means that it depends on the availability of the staff at the consulate. We don't know yet what's going to happen with people that have appointments for January and February. The biggest push that we have seen for rescheduling are people that had their appointments in December.
But when you said selective, right? So that creates a problem. See, nobody would dare to just take that flight and go to India for a vacation. So how do we, or anyone who's trying to plan a vacation or like want to go out of the country for any purpose, needs to look for, or is it like they have canceled only appointments which is like booked very recently, or is it like, do we see a pattern? Is my question here.
So far, we don't see a pattern, and so
Okay.
far, we don't have a lot of clear guidance from the government about the type of appointments that they're rescheduling. I think what's really concerning here, especially for a lot of people that are planning to fly, is that they're not notified about the unavailability of visas, or they're not notified that their visa appointments are going to be rescheduled until they have already boarded the flight or until they are in their home countries, right? So something that's very important for people to take into account, especially if they're thinking about traveling, is like I said, be sure to have a flexible or refundable ticket, right? Have a contingency plan to work remote with your employer. Have these conversations with your employer. Don't wait until you're stuck in your country and not able to come back to start talking to your employer. And then the last one is for you to be sure that you can afford not to work for a few months, right? Like if you don't have the ability to afford not being able to get paid for a few months, then perhaps traveling right now is not a priority, and it's recommended that you wait and don't travel until things have calmed down a little bit.
And one other question is like in one of the Facebook posts I read like yesterday night, and it was a little concerning, is that like one person, they went to India for an appointment, and it was rescheduled to March, and now their employer is saying that they cannot keep him off the country for so long, so they are like taking him off the payroll, so which is like basically his H-1B, or his job is not there now. And we also have few people saying that their employer is okay for the candidate to work from India. So is it legally allowed? Because in H-1B it is tagged to the location, right? So if in this situation, if a employee is requesting to work from home in India or in Indian office of their like if, for the MNC company, is it legally allowed, or what options a person like that might have?
I think it depends if the person has already activated their H-1B, if they have already an approval for an H-1B and they were here on their H-1B status and they were just going abroad for visa stamping, then that H-1B is tied to the employer and the location. So it is doable, but the employer would have to consult with the immigration attorney that's actually handling that H-1B to see if there is a way or do something else, right? The second thing is if someone hasn't activated their H-1B, and we see that in cases where people file for an H-1B, but it comes back the approval with consular notification, meaning that it will not kick in until the person goes abroad to a consulate and activates it. This person is not on H-1B status. This person could technically work as a as a contractor abroad, but again, the implications of the tax implications, the laws of the country where they're staying, all of that comes into play. And then for someone who unfortunately is abroad and their employer tells them that they no longer want to keep them on payroll, the H-1B is no longer valid, right? Like the H-1B is no longer valid. And the best approach, which is very difficult for people right now, is to start looking for another employer that will file a change of employer and will allow for the person to move that H-1B to another employer.
So, I mean, for a person who actually were working in US and they went to India and their visa has slot has been pushed back, they can legally work, provided that they have to contact the attorney.
There is a way to do it. People have done
Okay,
it, but again, the cases are very specific and it
okay,
totally depends on the case. But people have done it.
okay.
Again, having a open communication with the employer is key. Understanding that what are the legalities and the complications and having a plan of approach has helped some employees.
Okay. So I've also seen some people have complained that their January 2026 appointment was pushed back to December 2026, and in some cases the next year. I read this in one of the Facebook posts. So for anyone who's actually right now in USA, is it safe to say that like if it is not extreme emergency, do not travel, or like what precautions you think somebody who is right now in USA can take?
So personally, the furthest I have seen someone have their appointment reschedule has been to April of next year. I haven't seen a case that has been moved to December of 2026 or even 2027. Now, in terms of traveling, I just want to be clear that if someone already has a visa stamp that is valid and they have the corresponding non-immigrant status that is valid, they're safe to travel. They could travel,
Okay,
even people that were included in the travel ban. The travel ban, if you read the executive order, doesn't apply to people that already have a visa stamp and have underlying valid status. So the people likely and generally are safe to travel if they have a visa stamp. If someone is in the US right now and they don't have a visa stamp or their visa stamp has expired, that advice that attorneys are giving right now is that be conservative in terms of traveling. You don't want to be stuck abroad. You don't want to jeopardize your status, especially in this climate. And with also something that people forget is the World Cup, right? The World Cup is happening in the summer, and the president came out and make an announcement that they will give priority for visa appointments to people who have secure official ticket for a match in the World Cup in the US. So think about in terms of considerations, how is that going to backlog consulates, right?
okay.
That's happening in the summer. So really make that decision based on the level of risk that you're willing to tolerate, but also with the understanding that for the next 6 months, embassies and consulates are going to be very delayed.
So far, we know that December and January slot has been pushed back. So, is there any other case which you know, like maybe in March or further down line, has been pushed back, or is it like are they going to do it 1 month at a time?
Likely, the consulates and embassies are gonna be pushing appointments 1 month at a time. We saw that most people that had their appointments scheduled in December, not even in January, but December, were the ones that had their appointments pushed further, right? So this gives you the understanding that they're gonna be taking it month by month, and also there isn't a lot of guidance in terms of what the government
Can
determines
do.
to be conflicting, right? Social media posts. So even consular officers, they don't really know what type of things they should be looking for other than the very generalized guidance that we have, which are the post shouldn't conflict with your job and also it shouldn't go against national security. But what is national security? What is the government looking for, right? Like, so I think officers right now are also buying time to understand what is the guidance that the government wants them to follow.
So my next question is like maybe this is a little too early, but uh, I mean, do we have anyone who have been affected by the social media vetting, or they have like put in like administrative process or been rejected for some reason, saying that oh this post something like that is not um, aligned with the social media vetting policy or something like that? Do we have any case so far, or is it like we have to wait and watch?
To be honest, I don't know of anyone, even with my network of immigration attorney friends, that has a situation where someone's post on social media led to a denial.
Okay.
There's been situation where perhaps they, were put into administrative processing and further vetting was required, but there hasn't really been any notifications that I know personally where someone's visa got denied. And just to take a step back and think about the generalization of people who get H-1Bs. These are professionals. These are people that are highly educated and highly sophisticated. If you look on their social media, usually someone that's at this level of education and complexity, they don't post things that are inflammatory on social media because they don't want to lose their jobs, right? Like they work for these very prestigious and large companies. So it is very likely that you're going to find H-1B holders posting things that go against national security just because they have a very complex and sophisticated type of visa.
So, based on the current scenario, what advice you would, as an attorney, want to give us, like the visa holder who are traveling or like planning for a travel in the summer or in 2026?
Sure. The general advice that I will give, and that what I'm giving my clients, and that I see other immigration attorneys right now giving, is number one, speak to the immigration attorney handling your case before booking a flight, not after.
Okay.
Also, if visa stamping is not absolutely necessary, it will be important for you to reconsider travel and if it's worth the risk of being stuck abroad. Also, if travel is unavoidable, plan for a delay, plan for traveling later in the year, pay for an insurance for your ticket so that you're able to have the flexibility of rescheduling the flight. And lastly, but most importantly, is have open communication with your employer. Have an open communication, educate yourself, because employers often they're not sophisticated with immigration law. And if an employee goes up to them and is able to show that they have done the research, that they know that they have a contingency plan, and they know what's going on and how what's going on doesn't affect them, an employer will be more likely to have a plan of emergency or a plan where they can work with the employee.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gabriela.
Of course, and actually,
Mm,
this weekend I'm going to be working on a guide
mhm.
on how to teach people how to schedule emergency appointments and how to be successful with that. So be on the lookout because we're going to be posting that.
Okay. That would be a really good information. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye bye.
Before we wrap up, if you are personally impacted by visa appointment delays or have questions about your situation, you can check out Manifest Law for more information. They are offering a free consultation and you will find the link in the description below. As always, immigration situations are case specific, so it is important to get guidance based on your individual facts. So thank you, Tata, take care, bye bye, and Sandam Dollara, subscribe.